Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Just Music, the music podcast where I talk about whatever I happen to be hyperfixated at that moment that is music related or stuff that I just happen to see on social media that piques my interest and I feel like I need to talk about. Now, if you are listening to this on the Just One Hit podcast thing, you will notice that podcast has now gone through slight rebrand. Now it's no longer just dedicated to one-hit wonders. I will still be doing those. And so with today's episode, we're going to be talking about this Twitter post. I'm not calling it X, I'm sorry. Calling it X was a choice on Elon Musk's part. I will not be referring to it as such. It will always be Twitter. I came across this Twitter post from a Twitter account by the name of Mr. Pop, and it has this grid of 9 artists on it. And the question that was posed was, which artist do you think is having the worst 2024? It has over 300k views on it, and this was posted earlier in August. I made a short on my YouTube and my TikTok about it, but I feel like I need to extrapolate a bit more about my thoughts on this grid. And again, there are 9 artists on the grid. So at the top, we have Justin Timberlake, we have Ice Spice, we have Normani. In the second row, we have Katy Perry, Dua Lipa, and we have Camila Cabello. And in the last line, we have Jennifer Lopez, Imagine Dragons, and Lil Nas X. I'm going to go through each of these artists and I'm going to talk about my opinions about who I think is having the worst year in music. Some will be more longer than others because, one, I've been following some of these artists a little bit longer than I have others, and there's some people on this list who I just don't not care about. So their sections will be very short and very, they will not be as detailed as others. So we're actually going to start from the bottom row, actually, and then work our way up towards the top. So again, bottom row is Jennifer Lopez, Imagine Dragons, and Lil Nas X. And I'm going to start off with Lil Nas X. I'm not really too sure what's going on with Lil Nas X's careers. Back in 2022, I believe, is when we got his first, no, it's 2021, right? Yeah, 2021 is when we first got his debut album, and it was doing pretty well. He had, the song with Jack Harlow, what's it called? Industry Baby, and Call Me By Your Name, and, those were all big hits. He was the talk of the town because of the shock value. He had the whole soul infused with blood type deal, and he was the bee's knees of the industry, and he is an open and proud gay young man. And now we fast forward to this year. I know earlier in the year he started, I believe he was starting the campaign for his second album, I think. And that's where we got J. Christ. I believe that's what the name of the song was, J. Christ. And he was doing more of the shock value stuff on social media, where he was talking about Christianity, and he was building up to this song debut, and it didn't do too well, I believe. I don't even know where it peaked. Let me look it up really quickly just for my sake. Yeah, J. Christ came out at the top of the year back in January, and it debuted and peaked at number 69 on the Billboard Hot 100. So from what I'm looking at, that has been the only single that he's released aside from a feature Camila Cabello, who's also on this list, album that came out earlier in the summer. Yeah, I haven't really heard anything from him. I mean, on TikTok, there's a snippet of a song that sounds like it was produced by the Neptunes, 2000s era Neptunes. I don't know if that's unreleased or that was something he leaked to the internet. I also think that he released a mixtape, or it was some SoundCloud stuff. I know he released some SoundCloud stuff, and he was teasing that, and I thought that was going to be the next single. I forget what that was called. Hold on, so let me look that up. I think it was Light Again. Was it Light Again? I think it might have been Light Again. Yeah, Light Again. That was the song. Light Again I thought was actually really good. I really enjoyed Light Again. I know there was some slight controversy with Light Again about the lyrics. I don't really want to get into that right now because that is not what we are here for. But I definitely thought Light Again was going to be the next single, but that just wound up being released to SoundCloud. And then he also released a couple of other things on the Maserati 2. I guess this is a mixtape. And also looking at his Spotify page, he also released a soundtrack single for Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. I heard nothing about that. I didn't see him promote that on social media or anything. I wouldn't say that he is having a particularly bad year, though. I would just say that it's a bit slower than his previous years. You're not going to be on top the whole time that you are in the industry, and Lil Nas X is still fairly new. He hit the scene back in 2019. In terms of like his mainstream success with Old Town Road, I feel like whatever he's cooking up, because I'm pretty sure that he is working on new music as we speak, I think right now he just needs to shift course, and the shock value thing is pretty much played out by this point. It's been his thing for a while. It gets tired real fast, and sometimes that shock value takes away from the artistry, and I feel like Lil Nas X is very talented. When he does come back with whatever single he decides to come back with for this second album, or mixtape, or EP, or whatever he plans on releasing, we need to just have a very traditional type rollout in terms of, I mean, he can still do all the social media stuff. That's where he excels at. He's very good at social media promotions. But the music needs to match, and it needs to be good. The next people on this list are Imagine Dragons, and to be quite honest, I have not heard about Imagine Dragons in a while. Back in college, 2012, I really did like Imagine Dragons. I did. I wouldn't say that I was like a big super fan or whatever. I was a very casual Imagine Dragons listener. I liked its time. I liked Demons. I really enjoyed Demons, actually. I know a lot of people seem to not like Demons for some reason, but Demons I feel like is a really good song. Of course, I liked Radioactive, and I liked I think it was a bonus track on their first album. Was it Cha-Ching? I liked that song a lot too. But after that, I kind of just fell off. I know they released another album, I think about 2015? I think it was 2015, where it had like Shots and I Bet My Life on it. I remember those two songs, and I think that was the music that they really wanted to make, but they got caught in the Maroon 5 issue where they're like, okay, this album didn't do as well as we thought. Oh no, it feels like we're losing our popularity. So for the next album, we're going to make the most, I hate using this word, we're going to make the most generic, safe, radio-friendly rock, and I put rock in quotation marks, but it's more just pop music that we can muster whatever is the trend at time. And then that's how we got Thunder and Believer and Enemy and all those other songs, which I honestly just do not really care for at all. What is that one Imagine Dragons songs that people really, really loved? It wasn't Enemy. No, see, Demons is at the top of the list in terms of their what the people are listening to, but Believer has 3 billion streams on here. And so they have a couple of songs on here that have over 1 billion streams. They released an album called Loom this year, and I think the only reason that they're on this list of people is because Loom didn't do so well on the charts, but I also don't think Imagine Dragons were presence on like album charts, to be quite honest. I feel like they've always been a singles band. And they released 2 singles from this album that I had not heard from at all. Like, I haven't heard them on social media. Like, the last big Imagine Dragons singles I remember hearing was Enemy. And that was because it was tied to the Arcane series on Netflix. But other than that, I have not heard anything else about Imagine Dragons. So I also feel like Imagine Dragons is also in that category where they are a band at the end of the day. All they have to do is throw themselves onto a tour, and they will be fine. That money will be made. Again, they have like a couple of songs on Spotify that are over 1 billion streams. One of their songs has over 3 billion streams, okay? They will be fine. Okay, I don't think they're necessarily doing and they're actually going to be going on they're actually on a world tour right now. And apparently they had to add dates to this tour. This tour started at the end of July. They are fine. I don't think they're going to be hurting. While they might not be like the hugest artists in the world or whatever, they have a dedicated enough fan base to where even if the album, is considered a quote unquote flop, again, they are a band. They could just, again, go on tour and do a leg or two, recoup that money that they quote unquote lost, and they will not be hurting for anything. They are fine. Oh, okay. So I just actually took a look at their album placements. They've actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 2 albums, with 1 number 1 album here in the US, and that was the Smoke and Mirrors album, which had Shot and I Bet My Life. Okay, so interesting. All right, so I guess they were. So I guess because it didn't chart as high as those past albums, it was considered a flop. I don't know, but again, I don't think they're having the worst year in music at all. They're on a tour. Them tour dates have sold out from what I can see. They're fine. I'm moving on. All right, next we have Jennifer Lopez. Miss Jenny from the block is I'm looking right at her face. Like literally everybody in this left column. Everybody in this left column is really going through it musically this year. I would say that she's probably going through it the worst, if I'm being quite honest, because we have to just go down the laundry list, because this seems 2024 just seems like the year of, we're gonna take J-Lo out of here in terms of like her career and her personal life. Let's start off with the album that she released. Was it back in February or March? She released an album this year in tandem with This Is Me Now. That is the name of the album. Okay, yeah, so the name of the album is This Is Me Now. It came out in February, and it was released in tandem with a film called This Is Me Now, A Love Story, and a documentary called The Greatest Love Story Never Told. And this was her documenting the creation of the album and the film. And we heard how, there were a lot of really famous people that she really wanted to have in the This Is Me Now film, that a lot of people just were not interested in being in the film. There was a story that came out about how she wanted somebody who was going to be in a wedding to be in the film, and they couldn't go because they were going to be in the wedding. And then she was like, well, can we just get them to not go to the wedding? We heard the film apparently was not all that great from what I heard, and the album also didn't do that well either. It peaked at number 38 on the Billboard Top 200, which I believe is her lowest charting album, in the US, because I know she released a couple of Spanish exclusive language albums between 2014, which was her last album, AKA, and I know she released a couple of singles through then. And, that would be par for the course for like a pretty bad musical year in general. Okay, yeah, so you had a flop, quote unquote flop album. You had a bad documentary and movie come out. But it's fine. We can move past that. But on top of that, she was also supposed to take this album on tour. And with that, it was supposed to be called This Is Me Now, the tour. With that, the sales weren't there. The sales were not there with that. And it was selling extremely poorly, and to the point where they went back to the drawing board and they repackaged it as This Is Me Live, which was supposed to be a greatest hits tour. And it was supposed to hit Canada and the United States, and it was supposed to wrap up actually in this month. But because the tour was just not doing as well as some other things that we're also going to talk about a little bit later, she had to cancel the entire tour. So her explanation for canceling the tour was the fact that she wanted to spend more time with her family, because as you guys know, she got married to Ben Affleck in 2022 after being together back in the early 2000s, and that was a whole debacle in itself. But canceled tour, documentary, movie, album. Then we have to go to the social media aspect of J-Lo, where it seems like everybody wanted to get their lashings out on J-Lo on social media. Everybody has been dragging this poor woman because we found out that, she has not been the nicest to service workers. There was a clip from the Met Gala this year where a reporter asked her what she was wearing, and some people viewed her response as very snippy, very rude, very mean. And people just took that and ran with it. There are people, like, even on my TikTok feed to this day, like, I will come across one or two J-Lo lashings on my For You page, and I'm just like, damn, can she not get a break? And apparently she cannot get a break, because as of recording this, I think last week, it was announced that she filed divorce papers from Ben Affleck after 2 years of marriage. I have no opinion about their relationship because I didn't really follow their relationship. And I was a kid back in the 2000s when they were, when they had been together the first time around. I just know that they were engaged to be married. They did the movie Geely. Geely was not good. And Ben called off the engagement. And the thing is, the year's not even over yet. There is still another 4 months left to go. So I would not be surprised if for some cosmic reason that J-Lo will go through something else. But I feel like she would probably be my number one for the person who is having the worst 2024, just period. Musically, personally, just everything. I feel like she takes the cake, at least for right now. Now I am looking at Miss Catherine Elizabeth Hudson, aka Katy Perry. Now, I have thoughts about Katy Perry because her career has just been very interesting to observe as someone who has followed her from her big mainstream breakout in 2008 with I Kissed a Girl and One of the Boys album, all the way up till now with the upcoming or ongoing rollout of her album 143. And the thing is, I really liked Katy at one point. Again, One of the Boys was a really solid release. Teenage Dream, I've always loved Teenage Dream. I think is a really solid pop album. There are a couple of songs on there that I don't care for. I still think Part of Me is a terrible single. I don't know why she thought Part of Me should have been a single when Hummingbird Heartbeat was sitting right there. And I still think Hummingbird Heartbeat should have been a single at the end of the Teenage Dream era. I feel like it would have been a good wrap up. era single, even though she had released a re-release of Teenage Dream in 2012. I still think Hummingbird Heartbeat would have worked, even if it's just a radio-only single, and if she could have gave us just a tour video. And then the Witness era happened, and I was so upset with the Witness era. I hated Witness. Not Witness. Prism, sorry. The Prism era happened. We'll talk about Witness a little bit later, but yeah, the Prism, I'm confusing myself. Okay, what was I saying? The Prism era happened. Yes, Prism era. Prism I did not care for at all. It was such a boring era to me. Compared to Teenage Dream, it was so boring. But people really ate up the Prism era, especially Roar. I thought at the time Roar was one of the worst singles ever put to radio. I still think it is. It's not her worst single now because we have Woman's World, but Roar for me is still on the list of like top 5 worst Katy Perry singles ever. Unconditionally should have been a top 10 hit, but because of Roar's dominating presence on radio, it didn't get its just due. Dark Horse came and became a number 1 hit, and I'm pretty indifferent to Dark Horse, and then the singles after that were just a real mixed bag. I didn't care for Birthday because Birthday just sounded like another version of Sugar by Maroon 5. This Is How We Do was a fine single, but then she decided she wanted to be cultural appropriation Barbie for the video, and then that kind of just turned me off of that. I feel like we were robbed of 2 other singles from that era. We could have easily gotten Walking on Air. You performed Walking on Air on SNL and didn't try to release it in Europe as a single. And International Smile. Those easily could have been singles from that era. But I don't know what they were doing, probably because, again, it didn't do as well as Teenage Dream. Teenage Dream had like 5 number 1 singles from it, compared to Prism, which only had 2. Then we got to the Witness era, and the Witness era was just a hot mess. That's all I can consider it as hot. It was really messy. Real messy. I don't know even how to put it. I lived through it, and I'm still reeling on how bad of an era the Witness era was. No number 1 singles from that era, 1 top 10, and then all the follow-up singles were just questionable to say the least. I'm still surprised that she thought Bon Appetit was a good single. I know it's trended a couple of times on TikTok. I know the music video has like over 1 billion views. That was actually brought to my attention by a friend. The people spoke, and people were not checking for Bon Appetit. She tried to regain people with Swish Swish with Nicki Minaj and with the campy Last Friday Night 2.0-esque music video. Instead of being at a party, it's a basketball game, and it was not working. It was not working. That did not work, and it didn't help that she was also in the midst of a quote-unquote beef with Taylor Swift at the time. I actually have a whole podcast episode about that if you want to take a listen to that. And then the Smile era happened, and I did not pay attention to the Smile era, so I don't know what happened. I rarely heard anything from her during that era. I know she went to American Idol, she got a couple checks from that. And then earlier this year, I found out that she was leaving American Idol in order to get ready to put out this new album. And I was slightly surprised because I was like, damn, I really haven't heard anything from Katy musically. Aside from Con Calma, but I actually liked the solo version on Con Calma by Daddy Yankee more than I liked her featuring on it, but that's just me. But anywho, yeah, I found out that she was doing this new album, and I was like, okay, because again, I really like Katy despite her last few eras not doing that well, and I love a good comeback story. If you could come back from 2 underperforming eras, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I think you can do it. You can do it. I feel in my bones that you have to have something in there that can really get the people going, right? Then Woman's World came out, and I was like, ooh, maybe you need to hang it up flat screen. I'm not laughing. I'm just like, maybe we just need to not release music anymore. That's how bad I thought Woman's World was. like, I might have disliked Roar a lot, but at least Roar was a song. I can call Roar a song. I'm pretty sure that a person actually took the time to write Roar. Woman's World has 6 writers on there, and all you could come up with was 2016 era girl boss affirmations, and then called it a song. And the people spoke because it charted for a singular week. I think at number 60 something on the Billboard Hot 100, and then it fell off. Columbia and Katy went back to the drawing board. It was like, okay, well, this is clearly not working. So then they put out Lifetimes, and they stuck her on a plane with a camera crew, and she recorded on some islands. You could tell that it was a very slapdash job with this Lifetimes music video. Lifetimes is slightly better than Woman's World, but it's still very uninspired. And I haven't heard anybody really talk about Lifetimes either. And there's also I can't talk about Katy without talking about the fact that she is now again working with Dr. Luke, who did a lot of the production for her first 3 albums. Yeah, first 2 albums. No, 3 albums, yeah. One of the Boys' Teenage Dream, Prism. Yeah, her first 3 albums, and then, the court case with Kesha happened, where he was accused of some very heinous things. And I think it was either her or her team were like, yeah, we're not going to work with Luke for a hot minute. So we got 2 albums of non-Luke related tracks. And then now she is spinning the block with Dr. Luke again for this album. And people are rightfully so giving her the side eye about it. And then there's the whole, Woman's World thing. And apparently Dr. Luke did all these things to Kesha. But you're putting out a song called Woman's World, and, it's a lot, there's just layers to these things. And she's supposed to be getting a Vanguard Award at this year's VMAs, which I feel like is this is giving more promo than anything, because despite Katy Perry having all these high-viewed music videos, I don't think of Katy Perry's music videos when I think about her music. Which I thought that was the point of the Vanguard Award. You're supposed to have a visually appealing catalog of videos under your belt, and that's how you got the award, but apparently not. Okay, so 143 comes out in September, which is also when the VMAs are. So, I don't know how this is going to go for her. I didn't hear any of the snippets that she played for us. I don't know. I honestly do not know how this is going to go. It might be... I feel like this is just going to be another notch under her belt when it comes to her having flop errors. 3 flop errors in a row is something that is not a good look. And I feel like if she does, I feel like she just needs to leave Columbia after this point, go independent. And she really... Okay, I'm going to go on a whole tangent here. Katy Perry's issue is the fact that she refuses to grow with the times. She refuses to change. People that have lasted this long in the music industry, if you look at people like Beyonce, if you look at people like Rihanna, if you look at people... Pink. That's who I'm thinking off the top of my head. They have been able... Oh, Lady Gaga. Just to name a contemporary. They have been able to stay in the industry for so long, even if they've had quote-unquote flop eras, because they have been able to adapt with the times, one, or they have been able to pivot to something that makes them stand out amongst their peers in the industry. Katy has very much relied on the fact that she is, she's quirky and she's camp. And that quirkiness and campness can only take you so far. It was cute back in 2008. It was fine in 2010. It was wearing on people just slightly when Prism came out. And then it got to a point where we were like, okay, we're tired once Witness came out. And then people have really just checked out, except for her big Katy Cat fans or whatever. She really needs to have a sit down with herself as an artist and figure out what needs to change. That's my biggest advice for Katy Perry. If 143 comes out and it charts at like one number 50 something on the Billboard 200 and she is wondering why people have not taken to the music, maybe look at the musical landscape because again, this is not 2012 anymore. You can't rely on the same stick to push you forward. We gotta do something. Something needs to change. All right, continuing on to the next person next to Katy, it is Dua Lipa. I don't think Dua Lipa's really not having that bad of a year at all when it comes to her music. Her album, what was it called? I don't know. I'm sorry, Dua. I should know what your album is called, but I don't. The album that just came out at the beginning of the summer, Radical Optimism. That's what it was called. Radical Optimism. It's always hard when you come off a very strong sophomore album like a Future Nostalgia. Future Nostalgia came out during peak COVID times. Future Nostalgia really hit at a very, 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 very pivotal time for a lot of people. And it also helped that the fact that the music was good. The music was hot. It was popping. It was chef's kiss. Like, there are only a handful of people who can capture lightning in a bottle like that. And this is 4 years post Future Nostalgia. I know we had like a Future Nostalgia quote unquote re-release with a couple of handful of like throwaway tracks, but this is Dua's first full length project since the explosion of the Future Nostalgia album, where we saw this big transformation from her, where people had bullied her online about her performance skills. And then when the Don't Start Now single was released, we saw that she had improved vastly. Don't Start Now is still one of the best singles released ever of 2019. I played the hell out of Don't Start Now. But when it came to this album, I was quite confused with how everything was being rolled out, because the way that she described the album, I thought we were going to go from this dance pop centered atmosphere with Future Nostalgia, and she was talking about like psychedelic music. So I thought, oh, we're gonna go, we're gonna get some 60s sounds, we're gonna get some, some 70s, we're gonna get some like hippy dippy type stuff, we're gonna get some experimentalism. That is where my mind was headed when I was hearing Dua talk about the album. And she had paired up with Kevin Parker, who is from Tame Impala, who is actually really good with that type of sound. So I was really excited for this album because I'm just like, okay, she's definitely not trying to replicate Future Nostalgia with this. She's trying something different, and that's what I appreciate. She's trying to, transform the sound. And then when we heard the single, when I heard the singles, like I liked Houdini. Houdini was fine. It wasn't what I expected in terms of a first single, but I didn't dislike it at all. And then we got Training Season. Training Season I felt like was not single worthy. I'm not sure what I would have put as the second single. It wouldn't have been Illusion. And I'm going to talk about Illusion just a little bit later, but Training Season probably could have been held off as like a pre-release track to tease what the album would sound like. But as a single, I would have been like, oh, okay, well, I can take it or leave it. Now, Illusion made me mad. Not because of the song, because I think Illusion is one of the best songs released this year. Period. Point blank, period. And I'm more upset with the general public, at least here in the United States, who did not take to Illusion for some reason. Illusion was released and I was like, okay, the album is back on track. We are we're back on track with this rollout. Illusion is definitely going to be a song of the summer contender. And then we got the music video with like the Olympic-sized pool and the slim models and the synchronized swimming. And I was like, okay, yes, she's really setting it up. Okay, she went back to the drawing board. This is what I was expecting. This is the type of stuff that I was expecting from this era. Just for y'all here, the general public in the United States, to say, nah, we don't like this. We don't really care for this. Over Europe, they ate up Illusion. They ate up Illusion. And I'm glad y'all did, because it definitely deserved to be eaten up a little bit more, honestly, worldwide. But it only peaked at number 43 here. And the only reason that it's still charting is because radio took to it. I think it may be like the longest charting single here. I think, just based on the fact that radio is keeping it alive. I checked the radio charts beforehand, and apparently it's like number 55 at radio, which is not terrible. And, it could be worse. She couldn't be on radio at all. And that's the only reason why it still hasn't fallen off the charts completely, is because radio is still keeping it alive. But I have not heard about it anywhere else. Social media is not really talking about it. And then when the album came out, it was really crickets. Critics were really mixed about the album. I was mixed about the album too, because I'm just like, okay, I really wasn't moved. The way that people talk about songs like freaking Espresso, and I do like Espresso, I feel like people should be talking about Illusion in the same breath. Both of those songs are really good, but Illusion for me edges out Espresso just because it's a lot more upbeat and a lot more fun for me. At least. And that's no shade to Sabrina Carpenter because she's doing her thing. Congrats to you. It's been like a good decade since you started putting out music and you're finally getting it together. But I really wanted to see Illusion in the top 10 of the Billboard charts throughout the summer, the way that I'm seeing like an Espresso or a Please 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 or the Shabuzi country song, a bar song. People just did not take to it, and I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why. Like this really escapes me. Like I really thought Illusion was going to be that song, and I guess I was just mistaken. I think she's actually on tour now. Her tour is really like weird. I think she started tour in June. And then she's going to be like, she's taking like long breaks, and then she's going to start like the bulk of her tour in the fall. But yeah, she's on tour now. I haven't heard any bad things about the tour. So despite Radical Optimism not really popping off as big as A Future Nostalgia, it's still not bad. We're still not doing bad. I still wouldn't say she's having a bad year in music. Her album debuted at number 2. It went number 1 in a couple of countries. She's doing fine. I don't have issues with Dua's career right now. All right, next on the list we have Camila Cabello, formerly of Fifth Harmony. She's had a decent performing solo career. I don't really care for any of her music at all, and I've tried to listen to her music, and again, I've just not really cared for it. I think her vocal tone is very grating, so I don't really have much to say about her in terms of her music. I know she released an album this year. There was a lot of conversation around her album for the fact that, one, she decided she wanted to do hyperpop music, and we've never really gotten that vibe from Camila, that she was into the whole hyperpop scene. And the fact that she also decided to do a very big image change where her look is quote unquote more urbanized, and that she worked with a lot more Black artists this time around. She's worked with Black artists before, but this album particularly, I think it's for like CXOXO or something like that. She has a lot of Black features on here with Playboi Carti, Lil Nas X, JT, and Young Miami, also known as City Girls, some guy named BLP Kosher, and 2 Drake features. I haven't heard anything from this album, to be quite honest. If I don't hear it on TikTok, I assume that no one's talking about it. But because I don't know enough about her this era of her solo career, I can't say if she's having a bad year or not. I can only go based on, well, the outside looking in. I would say that I guess she's having a bad year. I'm not a fan of her, so I can't really say too much. But I guess if we were to compare it to her previous eras where, I actually heard her music on the radio, like Havana, Unana, and Never Be the Same was so freaking grating. I would say that she's having a bad year, but compared to other people on this list, like Katy and J-Lo, I would say I guess she's fine. Which brings me to her Fifth Harmony bandmate, Miss Normani. Now, the biggest thing with everybody when it came to Normani was the fact that she didn't have much music behind her. Just to compare, Camilla has a total of 4 albums out since 2018. Normani has released her first album ever this year, and that is the album Dopamine. She got her solo start back with this is how I think how her label wanted her to do. I think her label wanted her to go through like the feature queen route first to reestablish her name to the general public, because she was in Fifth Harmony along with Camilla, and people knew Fifth Harmony, but they didn't really know all the girls aside from Camilla, because we can tell that they really were pushing Camilla to be like the big star of the group. So I think when Fifth Harmony disbanded or whatever, they were like, okay, well, we need to reestablish you, as Normani and not the black girl from Fifth Harmony. So I think that's how we got songs like Love Lies and Dancing with a Stranger. Both of those are actually really good songs. I really adore Dancing with a Stranger. I'm really surprised that collaboration between Sam and Normani worked so well. Then we got a EP collaboration between Calvin Harris and Normani. It had my favorite song of hers so far, which is Slow Down. I really enjoyed Slow Down a lot. I'm not sure if that was just some sort of promo thing or if that was supposed to test the waters for an actual like solo. And then we had to wait all the way until August of the next year in order for us to get her actual debut single, which was Motivation. And I enjoyed Motivation a lot too. I really thought that Motivation should have did a lot better than it did. But I guess people were just not, again, sometimes I don't understand the general public. Motivation had everything that I feel like would have made a strong top 10 debut, and it only charted within like the top 30 of the Billboard Hot 100 from what I can remember. Yeah, number 33 of the Hot 100. But y'all let Never Be the Same go top 10. I don't understand. But moving on, and then she had Wild Side, which I also really enjoyed too. And Wild Side had a whole social media trend behind it. We really got some promotions behind it. It was pretty critically acclaimed. The music video was great, and it did a lot better actually than Motivation. It peaked within the top 20, not the top 30 or top 40, the top 30 at number 14 of the Billboard Hot 100. Again, I also think that should have been a top 10 hit too, but what do I know? And then we got Fair. I think Fair was the next single from that album, which again, I wouldn't have chose Fair as a single. But Fair didn't do too fair, to be quite honest. And Fair came out the next year in 2022. So we got Wild Side, pretty much crickets, and then nothing. Mind you, I know that Normani had a lot of personal things in her life that she was going through, which probably put the kibosh on some of the promotions for her debut album. And then we finally got Dopamine in June. A lot of people seemed to like Dopamine from what I can hear. I didn't listen to the Dopamine album, honestly, so I can't tell you, but I've heard Candy Paint on TikTok. I don't know if she ever released any of these singles officially as like, oh, this is going to be a single. Actually she did. She released 159 and she also released Candy Paint. I don't think Candy Paint has a music video though. So I think a lot of people are putting Normani in this category is because the album is out, but she's not really promoting. I'm gonna look at the charts. The album only didn't even chart within the top 50. It charted at number 91 on the Hot 100. I'm not sure what that is about. And again, because I'm on the outside looking in with this one, I don't really have much information to go by, but would I say that she's having a worse 2024 compared to Katy Perry and Jennifer Lopez? No. I wouldn't say no. And next we have Miss Ice Spice, Poopy. You know, she got a line about poop in all of her songs somewhat. I'm going to try to be as nice as possible when I say this, but I did not really have any high hopes for Ice Spice's career, just based on the way that she came up. If you do not know, Ice Spice got really big on TikTok with her song Munch. You know, you thought I was feeling you? That man is a munch. Yeah, that song. And then she just somehow skyrocketed because of Munch, and Munch was like everywhere. I kept hearing it. Munch, munch this, munch, munch that. And then in 2023, she hopped on the Boys a Liar remix with Pink Panthers, who makes me angry because I like Pink Panthers, but her songs are just so short. And that gave Ice Spice, I think that gave her her first like top 10 hit ever. And it was on the charts for a hot minute. And I liked Ice Spice on Boys a Liar. I thought she fit it really good. And then Princess Diana came out and Nicki Minaj hopped on Princess Diana, which then led to them being on the Barbie World song together. And that was a top 10 hit for some reason. I know the actual reason, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to be messy. Taylor Swift is somehow friends with Ice Spice for some reason, and she was able to get her on the Karma remix. And then Deli was pretty hot. And then, you know, after Deli, it started to get real rough out here for Ice Spice. A lot of people weren't really taking to the follow-up singles. Like, at the beginning of this year, she put out a song like, Think You the Shit, Fart. You think you're the shit? Bitch, you're not even a fart. I be going hard. That song. And then she put out like a sampled version of like Give Me the Light from Sean Paul, and people were really not checking for that because that did not chart at all. It did not chart at all. And then people started getting on her about the fact that she mentions, you know, poop in a lot of her songs, and it just kind of went downhill. And then we got the announcement that she was going to release a full studio album called Y2K. People saw the cover. People did not care for the cover. The album came out and it peaked at number 18, which is better than some of the people on this list. But overall, the consensus from the general public was like, this album is garbage. I haven't listened to it. I can't tell you how the album sounds. Again, this is just me outside looking in, based on what I've seen on social media, what I've read. Y2K was not it. There is one song from the album that is doing pretty decently, and that's Did It First with Central C, who I did not know was a thing until I heard this song. It's a 2-minute song. Again, I need to have a episode about how I feel like these 2-minute songs are not doing any of these people justice, because I do have 2 people on a song, and the song is only 2 minutes. I guess if we were to go like, okay, based on like her career highs or whatever, because, you know, again, this is still early in Ice Spice's career. You know, her debut album not doing that well is not going to be a death knell for her career. Again, I feel like she's also in the same boat as Lil Nas X. I feel like if she hunkers down, her team hunker down, take it to the drawing board, be like, okay, we need to work on this, and this. And then she comes out and the music is actually hot. She works on her rapping skills. She shows the people that, hey, she's in this shit for the long run and not just, you know, to get a check. I feel like Ice Spice can have a comeback. But again, she's also not doing as bad. Again, my litmus test on here is she doing as bad as J-Lo and Katy Perry? Those are like the 2 people on this list where I'm just like, okay, these 2 are actually doing real bad. In comparison to these 2, how are the rest of the people doing? I don't think Ice Spice is having a terrible 2024. Last but certainly not least on this list or grid of people, we have Mr. Justin Timberlake. Justin has really skirted accountability for his transgressions, specifically for, Miss Britney Spears and Janet Jackson for a good chunk of his career. It's only been like real recent where we've been like, okay, what you have done to these two women is really egregious. And the fact that we let you Skype because the music was good, and I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to be like, oh, the music was never good. The music was good. Them first 3 albums, Justified, 2020 Experience, Future Sex Love Sounds, those are good albums. I will not sit here and play in y'all's faces. Those are good albums. Timberlake, Pharrell, Neptunes did their big ones. JT did his big ones with those albums. However, now all that seems to be finally catching up with him because, we had the Janet documentary come out. Then we had Britney's autobiography, memoir thing come out last year. And then we found out some things about Justin via that. And now all of that seems to be carrying over into 2024, where he released an album this year. He had a single. He actually had 2 singles come out from that album. The singles didn't do too well, but for, Justin's also an aging pop star. He's been in the game for the better part of a good chunk of almost 20 years at this point. He's been a soloist for like a good 20 years at this point. So I'm not going to hold that too much against him. But if you also look at people who also have been in the game for like a good 20 plus years and are still getting #1 singles, Justin, we could have did better. And then the album released and it did fine. The album did fine. Justin really had his like big flop era, I think, with the Man of the Woods era, which was back in 2018. Because he had that big flop era with Man of the Woods, he kind of skated with this. He kind of skated the big, this is a big flop album type deal. It didn't do terribly. And from what I've heard, the album is actually really, really good. It still had a top 10 debut on the Billboard 200, peaked at #4. It wasn't like it was a terrible flop. It was just the singles that didn't really do too well. And then we got to, and he's also on a world tour. Speaking of world tour, he got arrested back in, was it May? When did he get this damn DUI or DWI or whatever it was? It was the DWI. He got arrested back in June for going through a stop sign and failing to stay on the right side of the road. And then there was this whole debacle about allegedly the cop who stopped him didn't know who he was, and then we got the, this is gonna affect the tour meme. If we're being quite honest, JT's not really doing that bad. Like, I know if you saw my short, I said he was doing pretty bad, but now that I'm verbalizing everything, aside from the DWI thing, which could have really ended badly, then I would have been like, the DWI, he's still doing pretty well. He's on a world tour that didn't get canceled. His singles still debuted within the top 40 of the Billboard 200. So that wasn't terrible. And again, I'm always doing my litmus test. Was it as bad as Katy Perry and J-Lo? And I'm going to have to say no, because he's still on tour now. I mean, he's still dealing with, the DWI stuff. I believe he got his license suspended, but if that's it, then yeah, he's not really doing that bad. So, that's everybody on the list. I think I am going to start doing more podcasts like this, just going through like social media stuff in terms of music or just topics that I happen to be ruminating on while I work on like the longer, more research-based musical stuff. I know, again, I have a couple of things coming down the pipeline. This should be out this should be out sooner rather than those, so this will be the newest thing that y'all will be getting. Thank you to whoever listened through this entire thing. Really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.